One moment of routine work, one safety shortcut. That's all it takes to separate these 6 workers from becoming the most horrifying workplace deaths you won't believe actually happened. These aren't freak accidents or once-in-a-lifetime disasters. They're reminders that in any workplace, the smallest oversight can become the ultimate tragedy. It was October 15, 2016, when Derek Vaughn arrived at the roadwork site near a quiet residential corridor. The 35-year-old pipe fitter had built a reputation for methodical work over his 12-year career, never rushing a job even when supervisors pushed for faster completion. His colleagues respected his attention to detail, though some found his cautious approach frustrating during tight deadlines. The morning brought overcast skies and lingering dampness from overnight rain that had soaked the sandy soil. Derek surveyed the 10-foot-deep trench that stretched along the street, noting water seepage trickling down the walls. The excavation cut through Type C soil, the most unstable classification, yet no protective shoring or trench box secured the opening. Alan Reyes, the 42-year-old site foreman, had worked construction for 2 decades. His task-focused personality meant schedules took priority, and today's pipe installation couldn't afford delays. He coordinated with Nina Patel, a 33-year-old excavator operator known for her cautious approach. Despite her careful nature, the morning's pace left little time for additional safety measures. James Wu, a 28-year-old laborer assigned as spotter, positioned himself at the trench edge. His thorough work habits made him reliable for monitoring wall conditions, though everyone focused on productivity rather than subtle signs of soil instability. The spoil pile sat dangerously close to the trench edge, within 2 feet instead of the required minimum setback. This placement added critical lateral pressure to walls already compromised by saturation. The access ladder stood more than 25 feet from Derek's work area, violating safety protocols. Derek descended with his laser level and pipe adhesive, positioning himself near the trench center to align the next sewer section. Above, traffic vibrations from passing vehicles transmitted through the saturated ground toward the increasingly unstable south wall. James noticed small clods breaking away and called out the observation, but work continued. Nina repositioned her compact excavator, the machine's movement sending additional vibrations through the waterlogged soil. A vertical fissure suddenly appeared along 12 feet of the south wall, accompanied by an ominous rumbling sound. The primary collapse happened without warning. Several cubic yards of soil released simultaneously, burying Derek to his chest in seconds. A secondary slough followed, completely covering him. The soil load compressed Derek's torso, fracturing multiple ribs and preventing chest expansion. Buried face down, his mouth and nose filled with sandy soil, creating complete airway obstruction. The weight made breathing impossible. Workers attempted hand digging from the edge, but their efforts triggered additional wall collapse, forcing them back. An exposed work glove appeared briefly before disappearing under settling soil. Emergency services arrived with specialized equipment. Using cribbing to stabilize remaining walls, they carefully removed bulk soil with machinery. When Derek was finally uncovered, he showed no signs of life. Facial abrasions marked where soil had impacted his head, and his chest showed the flail pattern of multiple rib fractures. EMS personnel suctioned soil from his airway and attempted resuscitation, but his heart had stopped. The medical examiner determined that compressive asphyxia from the trench collapse had caused his death, with multiple rib fractures and pulmonary contusions contributing to respiratory failure. The investigation revealed multiple safety violations. The company implemented mandatory trench shields, proper spoil setback requirements, and ladder placement within 25 feet of workers. Derek's death became a stark reminder that construction schedules should never override basic safety protocols. It was March 22, 2017, when Molly Whitaker clocked in for her evening shift at the local warehouse and distribution center. The 31-year-old inventory clerk had earned a reputation for meticulous attention to detail during her 4 years with the company. Her colleagues appreciated her thoroughness, especially during chaotic quarter-end inventory counts. The warehouse buzzed with activity as teams rushed to meet shipping deadlines. Molly wore her high-visibility vest, partially obscured by an unzipped hoodie. She made her way to the end cap displays near aisle 3, clipboard in hand, ready to verify product labels. Carlos Mendez, the 39-year-old shift lead, coordinated evening operations with organizational efficiency. His 2 decades of warehouse experience had taught him to balance productivity with safety, though tonight's quarter-end pressure pushed everyone to move faster. Owen Price, a 26-year-old forklift operator, had earned his certification 8 months earlier. His eagerness to prove himself sometimes led to hurried movements. Tonight, he moved full pallets from receiving to storage areas, navigating narrow aisles shared with pedestrian traffic. The warehouse layout created blind corners where tall, stacked pallets blocked sight lines. The intersection of aisle 3 and the main dock lane was particularly problematic. An oil patch from an earlier hydraulic leak had been partially treated, but slick residue remained. Owen operated a propane-powered sit-down forklift, moving a full pallet positioned above the recommended travel height. The forklift's backup alarm had developed intermittent faults. As Owen approached the blind corner intersection, he began reversing to maneuver around stacked pallets. The backup alarm failed to sound. His right rear tire contacted the residual oil patch, causing the rear end to lose traction and swing wider than anticipated. At that precise moment, Molly stepped from the end cap into the lane, clipboard in hand. Her path aligned directly with the forklift's counterweight as it swung through its arc. The heavy counterweight struck Molly's left side with devastating force, pinning her pelvis and torso against a steel rack upright. The crushing impact disrupted her pelvic ring structure and lacerated internal abdominal organs. The steel rack vibrated but remained standing, trapping her between the counterweight and the immovable structure. As the forklift continued its slight forward roll, additional pressure compressed her left femur until it fractured. Profuse external bleeding began immediately at the pelvic area, pooling beneath her as crushing forces continued. Carlos heard the impact and shouted frantically. Owen hit the brakes, but the forklift's engine continued idling with the counterweight maintaining pressure. Co-workers rushed to help, using wheel chocks and a pallet jack to create leverage for moving the machine. When they finally advanced the forklift enough to relieve crushing pressure, Molly was found unconscious and without a pulse. Massive hemorrhage had created a significant pool of blood, and no spontaneous cardiac activity could be detected. Emergency medical services arrived within minutes, immediately applying a pelvic binder and attempting intubation. They initiated rapid transfusion protocols, but no return of circulation occurred despite aggressive resuscitation efforts. The medical examiner determined that Molly died from crush injuries with exsanguination due to pelvic ring disruption and severe abdominal trauma. The investigation revealed multiple contributing factors: mixed pedestrian and forklift traffic, malfunctioning safety equipment, inadequate visibility, and failure to follow horn use protocols. Management immediately installed physical pedestrian barriers, painted dedicated walkways, and mandated horn use at all intersections. Maintenance procedures were strengthened with daily pre-shift inspections becoming mandatory. The tragedy prompted comprehensive retraining on exclusion zones around moving equipment. It was July 18, 2015, when Travis Bennett arrived at the regional grain storage facility for what should have been a routine maintenance call. The 29-year-old maintenance technician had built a solid reputation over his 6 years at the facility for his methodical approach to problem solving. His colleagues respected his thoroughness, though some found his careful pace frustrating. The summer heat had reached 85 degrees by mid-morning. Travis surveyed the towering concrete silos, noting the slow reclaim flow reported over recent days. Bridging and crusting issues had plagued this particular silo, creating pockets where grain would hang up. Helen Park, the 45-year-old supervisor, had worked grain handling for over 2 decades. Her safety-conscious nature usually meant thorough permit reviews, but today's production pressure led her to misclassify the top entry as non-permit required. The decision would prove fatal. Mark O'Neill, a 34-year-old laborer known for his reliability, was assigned as the attendant at the top hatch. His steady demeanor made him ideal for monitoring entry operations, though morning radio traffic would soon divide his attention. Priya Shah, a 27-year-old electrician, monitored motor amperage readings on the reclaim system from ground level. The silo's reclaim auger had been locked out according to procedure, but the slide gate position wasn't physically verified as fully closed. This oversight meant residual flow toward the bottom discharge remained possible, creating a deadly suction effect. Warning placards noted engulfment risks, and facility records documented a previous near miss involving bridged grain. Despite these indicators, the entry was treated as routine maintenance, rather than the permit-required confined space it actually was. A harness and lifeline were available, but the planned anchor point was a handrail rather than an independent overhead structure. This fundamental error would eliminate any chance of effective rescue. Travis entered through the top hatch, stepping onto what appeared to be a solid grained surface. The crust had formed over recent weeks, as moisture and pressure created a false floor, concealing a dangerous void beneath. Mark maintained visual contact initially, but looked away to answer a radio call. Without warning, the crust fractured under Travis's weight. He dropped into the hidden cavity as surrounding grain avalanched inward, rising to his chest within seconds. The grain behaved like a fluidized solid, pinning his arms and making upward movement impossible. The loose-fitting harness provided no meaningful restraint without proper overhead anchor. The lifeline dragged uselessly through flowing kernels as Travis was drawn deeper by partial flow still occurring toward the reclaim system. Mark heard the commotion and turned back to see a dust plume rising from the hatch. The lifeline showed brief tension before going slack, indicating complete engulfment. Priya immediately hit the emergency stop, but the partially open slide gate allowed residual flow to continue. The grain rescue tube had to be retrieved from a distant storage shed, causing critical delays. When the tube was finally inserted and grain removed, Travis was located deep beneath the surface. He was pulled out unresponsive and cyanotic, with kernels packed in his mouth and airway. No spontaneous respirations were detected. Emergency medical services performed aggressive airway suctioning and ventilation attempts, but no return of circulation occurred. The medical examiner determined that Travis died from mechanical asphyxia due to grain engulfment. The investigation revealed multiple critical failures: misclassification of a permit-required confined space, inadequate anchorage systems, and delayed rescue equipment. The facility immediately reclassified all top entries as permit required. It was November 14th, 2018, when Isabel Crane arrived at the commercial high-rise for what should have been a routine elevator modernization shift. The 38-year-old elevator technician had built an impeccable reputation over her 15 years in the industry for her precise attention to detail and methodical approach. Her colleagues respected her expertise, though some found her perfectionist tendencies time-consuming. The evening shift had been chosen to minimize disruption to building tenants, leaving fewer personnel on site. Isabel made her way to level 12, where she was assigned to align door interlocks as part of the ongoing modernization project. Marcus Lee, a 41-year-old senior technician, was working 2 levels below on controller inspection mode. His 2 decades of experience made him the natural choice for overseeing complex electrical systems. The elevator car was parked at level 14. Dana Roberts, a 52-year-old security guard, conducted regular patrols to ensure unauthorized personnel stayed out of cordoned construction areas. Owen Kim, a 36-year-old member of the janitorial staff, had completed his evening cleaning routine earlier. The floor near the level 12 hoistway remained slightly damp from his recent mopping, creating an unnoticed hazard. The modernization project had created multiple floors with temporary barricades around open hoistway doors. Level 12's barrier had developed a defective top latch, allowing the gate to shift when contacted rather than maintaining a secure positive lock. Lighting near the hoistway had been compromised due to several failed fixtures. Isabel had positioned a portable work light to illuminate her task area, but shadows still obscured portions of the threshold. Her fall protection harness was properly worn, but the critical anchorage point hadn't been established at the opening. Despite wearing the required equipment, she lacked the essential connection that could arrest a fall. Isabel began her work by removing the door panel to access the interlock components. As she knelt to reach the pickup roller mechanism, her right boot made contact with the damp surface Owen had left behind. The moisture created a slick condition that caused her foot to slip unexpectedly. As she lost her footing, she instinctively reached out and contacted the temporary barrier for support. The defective latch failed to hold, allowing the barrier to shift backward and widen the opening. Leaning inward to maintain her balance, her hand slid along the dusty and oil residue-covered jam metal. Her grip failed completely, and she fell backward into the open shaft. The first impact occurred against a crossbeam partway down the shaft. The collision produced bilateral fractures of both upper arms and multiple rib fractures. Her second major impact struck a divider beam lower in the shaft, causing severe pelvic fractures and internal bleeding. The final impact came when she hit the pit floor. The collision with the concrete pit floor caused a basilar skull fracture. Her observed posture suggested potential cervical spine injury. Marcus heard the distinctive metallic impact sounds and immediately switched the controller to stop mode. He radioed to determine which floor the incident had occurred on. Dana accessed the pit area and found Isabel unresponsive at the bottom. She exhibited shallow, irregular gasping respirations that ceased shortly after Dana's arrival. Blood was visible from her ears and nose. Emergency medical services arrived and implemented spinal immobilization protocols before attempting intubation and mechanical ventilation. Despite their advanced life support efforts, her cardiac rhythm deteriorated during transport, and she was later pronounced dead. The medical examiner determined that Isabel died from multiple blunt force trauma, including basilar skull fracture and internal hemorrhage, sustained during her fall down the elevator shaft. It was May 12, 2016, when Keith Donovan arrived at the city infrastructure substation for what should have been a routine breaker replacement operation. The 44-year-old electrical lineman had built an impressive career over his 22 years in the utility industry, earning respect from colleagues for his methodical approach to high-voltage work. His experience with energized systems made him a natural choice for complex switching operations, though his confidence sometimes led to assumptions about equipment status. The morning brought clear skies and low humidity conditions that increased static potential throughout the substation yard. Keith surveyed the maze of transmission lines, transformers, and switching equipment. Today's objective was to replace an aging oil circuit breaker before summer demand peaked. Tanya Brooks, the 47-year-old crew lead, had worked electrical transmission for over 2 decades. Her disciplined approach to safety procedures made her an ideal supervisor for high-risk operations. She conducted the morning job briefing, reviewing switching clearances. Eli Navarro, a 23-year-old apprentice lineman, brought youthful eagerness to the crew. His recent graduation from lineman's school made him valuable for staging tools. Sam Rivera, a 50-year-old crane operator known for his calm demeanor, had positioned his boom within minimum approach distances. The substation's labeling system had become problematic after recent rerouting work. A feeder label carried ambiguous information that didn't clearly identify the circuit's current configuration. A temporary tag had been placed over the original marking, but it partially obscured the correct identification. Keith's voltage detection equipment remained in the crew truck due to a battery issue. A spare detector was available in a nearby equipment cabinet, but schedule pressure led to the decision to proceed without retrieving it. Keith entered the fenced bay area and began his systematic verification of visible disconnect switches on adjacent equipment. He relied on the switching schedule and visual indicators to confirm de-energization. As he removed a panel near a porcelain bushing to access internal components, his arc-rated gloves and sleeves appeared intact. However, an unidentified backfeed existed through the mislabeled feeder circuit. When Keith's tools made contact with what he believed to be de-energized equipment, an electrical arc initiated from the energized bus to the panel area. The arc flash enveloped his hands and forearms with intense thermal energy. Despite his arc-rated protective clothing, portions of his garments ignited. The current found a path through his body, with entry wounds at his hands and exit points at his knees. The electrical shock caused violent muscular contractions that threw Keith backward onto the substation's gravel surface. His safety helmet shifted during the fall, and he developed ventricular fibrillation as the current disrupted his heart's normal rhythm. Tanya immediately called for emergency response, while Sam secured the crane boom and Eli retrieved an automated external defibrillator. A small electrical fire had started at the panel, which Eli quickly extinguished. The AED pads were applied to Keith's chest, and the device delivered an electrical shock in an attempt to restore normal heart rhythm. CPR was performed continuously, while the power authority worked to make the work area electrically safe. Emergency medical services arrived and provided advanced life support, including medications and additional defibrillation attempts. A brief return of circulation occurred during treatment, but it was subsequently lost despite prolonged resuscitation efforts. The medical examiner determined that Keith died from electrocution with thermal burns and fatal cardiac arrhythmia resulting from contact with energized electrical equipment. It was February 23, 2018, when Brianna Steele arrived at the municipal water treatment facility for what should have been a routine inspection of the sludge pump vault. The 36-year-old maintenance supervisor had built a stellar reputation over her 12 years at the facility for her systematic approach to complex mechanical problems. Her colleagues respected her thoroughness and technical expertise, though some found her methodical pace frustrating. The winter morning brought crisp air and clear skies, but the below-grade pump vault presented hidden dangers that would prove fatal. Brianna surveyed the concrete structure that housed critical pumping equipment, noting the recent complaints about hydrogen sulfide odors. Jorge Alvarez, a 40-year-old attendant known for his steady demeanor, managed the tripod retrieval system positioned over the vault opening. His 15 years of facility experience made him reliable for monitoring confined space entries. Naomi Clark, a 32-year-old mechanic with a reputation for meticulous work, prepared gaskets and tools at a nearby workbench. Victor Nguyen, a 55-year-old plant operator known for his cautious nature, had isolated upstream valves to reduce inflow into the vault. The permit-required confined space had been properly classified and atmospheric testing equipment was calibrated. However, the ventilation system had developed a critical flaw. A tear in the ventilation duct significantly reduced airflow to the lowest areas where dangerous gases could accumulate. Surface atmospheric readings showed adequate oxygen levels with hydrogen sulfide concentrations near the alarm threshold. However, testing at the deepest point had not been performed, leaving dangerous pockets of gas undetected. The decision was made to use air-purifying respirators with acid gas cartridges rather than supplied air breathing apparatus. This choice would prove inadequate when hydrogen sulfide concentrations spiked. A critical communication breakdown occurred regarding the retrieval line attachment. The safety protocol required the entrant to be connected to the retrieval system before entry, but a miscommunication left this essential connection unmade. Brianna donned her air-purifying respirator and descended into the vault while Jorge observed from above. The torn ventilation duct was positioned at the opening, but effective airflow to the lower elevations remained insufficient. As Brianna began probing the pump couplings, her activities disturbed trapped sludge deposits. The agitation released bubbles of gas, causing hydrogen sulfide concentrations to spike rapidly. Her personal gas monitor immediately alarmed as concentrations exceeded safe levels. The hydrogen sulfide concentration quickly surpassed the capacity of her respirator cartridge, allowing breakthrough of the toxic gas. She moved toward the ladder, but collapsed before reaching safety. The respirator shifted on her face during the fall, further compromising her protection. Jorge observed her collapse and attempted non-entry retrieval, but discovered that the retrieval line had not been attached. Jorge increased ventilation and immediately called emergency services. However, proper supplied air equipment was not immediately available, creating dangerous delays. The fire department arrived with self-contained breathing apparatus and entered the vault. A firefighter attached the retrieval line to Brianna's harness and winched her to the surface. When she was brought up, Brianna was cyanotic with absent respirations. Frothy sputum was visible, consistent with pulmonary edema. No pulse could be detected. Emergency medical services immediately secured her airway and administered high-flow oxygen while providing advanced life support measures. Despite aggressive treatment, no return of circulation occurred. The medical examiner determined that Brianna died from acute hydrogen sulfide poisoning, leading to rapid respiratory paralysis and hypoxic cardiac arrest. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now.